Hello and welcome. All of us have seen a lot of videos and read a lot of books explaining the theory behind Relocate, Hypervisor level lift and shift cloud migration strategy. If you want a detailed and practical explanation of the strategy, you can find a link to this video here, and the link on this video also present in description below. But in today's video, I want to go beyond the theory. I will show you real examples of companies that implemented the Relocate Hypervisor level lift and shift strategy, where the strategy worked well, where it didn't work, and the most important, why. Together we will look at real success and fail stories, so you can better understand not just theory, but how the strategies actually play out in real cloud migration projects. Practice offers teaches much more than theory, and these examples will help you see what to do and what to avoid, if it's possible, of course. Before you proceed, if you find this content helpful, please like and subscribe. Your support helps grow our community and signals to YouTube that this channel provides valuable information. I very appreciate your help in sharing knowledge. A great starting point is a group of enterprises that moved their VMware workloads to VMware Cloud on AWS. This approach gave them a way to keep their familiar tools and platforms, but gain the scalability and flexibility of the cloud. Many companies saw improvements in disaster recovery and resilience thanks to AWS Cloud Infrastructure or Azure, for example. They also managed to scale more easily during demand spikes. However, some of them reported challenges with cloud cost visibility and performance tuning, as not every workload transferred well without adjustment. For example, Johnson & Johnson is one example where this approach paid off. They moved VMware-based workload to Google Cloud VMware Edge. What made this work was the balance. They maintained operational continuity, reduced their on-premises data center footprint, and improved their disaster recovery setup. Over time, they also reported cost savings. But even with these wins, they had to carefully manage how their applications behaved in new environment. Like many companies, they discovered that cloud pricing model, let's say, can be a more complex than expected. So, cost control became an ongoing task. Another major example is SAP, well-known company, which relocated its core ERP system to Microsoft Azure. For SAP, the great was to preserve the strengths of their backend systems while benefiting from Azure's cloud scalability. The migration helped them become more flexible and able to innovate fast. They gained better support for global operations and customer needs without breaking the structure of their core applications. That said, SAP had invested heavily in training their teams to manage and monitor services in a public cloud. Something that took time and planning, especially for large distributed environments. Let's also look at Hertz, the global car rental company. They moved much of their core IT infrastructure to AWS using the Relocate approach. One of their goals was to close an aging data center and cut infrastructure costs. They also needed to support seasonal demand during holidays, vacation periods, etc. So, scalability was a key. The migration helped Hertz reduce energy usage, improve flexibility, and lower long-term maintenance needs. But they did run into some trouble with legacy applications compatibility. Certain tools and systems didn't behave well in the cloud without changes. And that forced the company to pause and redesign parts of the environment after the initial move. So, it's clear that Relocate can be a powerful migration method, especially when companies need to move fast, avoid disruption, or maintain compliance with their current application structure. But it also comes with risks when the migration is rushed, or maybe when cloud readiness is not fully evaluated. So, to see that side, let's consider an example that didn't go as planned. Let's say a large retail company attempts to relocate a significant part of its infrastructure to the public cloud. Their goal was to cut costs and simplify disaster recovery. But the outcomes was a bit different. Because the applications were deeply tied to on-premise hardware and local configurations, they experienced high latency, performance drops, and data synchronization problems. They hadn't done enough compatibility testing before the move. As a result, they had to roll back several services to the original on-premises setup, causing disruption and, of course, frustration across teams. This story not fully public due to confidentiality. And this story discussed by many IT teams who move too fast without enough technical review. So, what does this all mean for your team, especially if you are planning a cloud migration? The relocate strategy can be the right move when you want to move quickly without changing your application layer. Or maybe you need to keep legacy systems intact while using your physical infrastructure. It's especially attractive for companies with large VMware or Hyper-V estates. It lets you preserve your environment and gain cloud benefits like global reach, better backup options, etc., without disruption operations. But this strategy only works well when your systems are truly ready for the cloud. That means testing how your application perform under different conditions, understanding cloud networking, reviewing integration points, preparing your teams to manage workloads once they've moved, etc., etc. The companies that made this work, Johnson & Johnson, SAP, Hertz, and others, all had something in common. They used Relocate as a bridge, a way to exit the data center without a full rebuild. But they also planned ahead for what might need to change later. They didn't treat it as move and forget. They treated it as move, measure, and improve. So, if you're thinking about using relocate approach for your next cloud migration, please make sure your planning includes not just how to move, but how to support, monitor, and optimize after the move. That's the difference between a successful relocation and a painful one. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.